Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
The Kansas Supreme Court has now allowed a Planned Parenthood criminal case to go forward. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel and dean of Liberty University School of Law. Joining me is Phil Kline, who is a visiting professor of law at Liberty University School of Law and was also the Attorney General in Kansas at the time some of these actions were going on. Welcome, Phil, to Faith and Freedom. This particular case by the Kansas Supreme Court is being hailed as good news in the sense that the Supreme Court ruled that the mammoth 107-count criminal case against Planned Parenthood of Kansas and mid-Missouri may now move forward, and they sent the case back down to the Johnson County District Attorney's Office for continued or further prosecution.
Yeah, it is good news, and it's great to be with you, Matt. In October of 2007, I filed this criminal case against Planned Parenthood after a judge found probable cause to believe that Planned Parenthood had committed the crimes. And as we were proceeding to trial, an attorney general that was elected at the time with Planned Parenthood support on his own without notification to us went to the Kansas Supreme Court and silenced our key witness. The court issued an order saying that witness can no longer testify. So I was forced to appeal that order to the Kansas Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court has been hostile to this prosecution and investigation for some time, and they are primarily appointed by former Kansas Governor Kathleen Sebelius, who again has substantial Planned Parenthood support. But finally the court came down and said, we shouldn't have issued that order, and the witness should be able to testify.
So let me go back. I know that they had silenced a witness that was a key witness that you had when you were the Kansas Attorney General. Now they have indicated that that witness can testify?
Yes, and in fact that the records that witness possesses can be brought forward. It was kind of a unique situation. The witness is a judge. And by previous order of the Kansas Supreme Court, they made the judge the custodian of records. So when a prosecutor goes to trial, they generally call the person who's maintained the records to show that the records haven't been altered. They're in the original condition in which they've been produced. Well, that witness is the judge. And the attorney general that was elected by Planned Parenthood, well, by the people of Kansas, but with Planned Parenthood support, had sued the judge to try to give this evidence back to Planned Parenthood.
So this judge was the custodian of records that were Planned Parenthood records that had information that was relevant to the prosecution of Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely. And in fact, we had alleged that the records they produced were manufactured fraudulently.
You did while you were the Attorney General.
Well, I was the district attorney.
While you were the district attorney. And then after, because you were the Attorney General, and then after that you became the district attorney in Johnson County. And
Correct.
While you were in that role as district attorney of Johnson County, having already started this case while you were the Attorney General, there was a subsequent Attorney General that took your place. And it was
That's
that
right.
Attorney General then that wanted to get the records from this judge and give them back to Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely.
Records that you had indicated that had allegedly been altered by Planned Parenthood.
Well, and another judge did before I filed charges. So you've got the judge with these records. He's being sued by the Attorney General who wants to clear Planned Parenthood. And the judge on his own took the records to a Topeka Police Department detective, had them reviewed, who said they looked to be altered. And so the judge fought that lawsuit. And it was in that lawsuit that the Supreme Court suddenly said, okay, after the judge testified and said these records appear to be manufactured, the Supreme Court suddenly said you can't speak anymore. And that has held up the case for over 2 years. And the Supreme Court finally backed down just within the last couple of weeks and said, we shouldn't have silenced that judge. He can now testify.
Because these records are obviously critical to this 107-count this criminal charge that you initiated.
Well, you can't go forward without the records.
So Planned Parenthood would be absolved if there's no record evidence that they actually did something wrong.
Absolutely. One of the strategies of our investigation and prosecution is we didn't believe it necessary to call the women who had abortions. They're not under legal risk. They can't have violated the law. Their privacy was protected throughout. But the records are necessary to prove the type of conduct which we allege is criminal.
And what was the conduct that was being alleged as criminal that these records would show some light on?
Some of that I can speak about. Some of it I shouldn't. There are 23 felony counts alleging the manufacturer essentially manufacturing fraudulent evidence in response to a subpoena. There are also, the rest are misdemeanor counts that allege that they performed abortions unlawfully on a viable fetus. In Kansas, you can only perform an abortion on a viable child if two doctors verify that there will be substantial and irreversible damage to a major bodily function of the mother. We claim that the abortions were performed on viable children and that determination was not made.
So that's part of some of these 107 violation allegations that are in this criminal prosecution, and these records obviously are relevant to that. It's interesting that the Attorney General that took your position wanted to take those records and give them back to the actual source, the source that allegedly misrepresented or altered or doctored some of those records.
Yes, I remember the judge calling me when the Attorney General demanded that he return these records to be returned to the person or the party that was being criminally investigated. He said, I never heard of such a thing, that a law enforcement officer would take records that were validly subpoenaed and make an effort to return them to the target of an investigation.
It'd be like if somebody came to and had a search warrant, they searched your house, and they were wanting to find out if they had drugs or whatever in your house, or you were creating fraudulent documents, and then in the midst of the prosecution, the government gives all that information back to the defendant.
Yes,
I mean, it just makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
And
well,
then,
it doesn't make any sense unless you understand the political context and the motivations of the parties involved.
And so now the good news is, one, the prosecution can go forward, and two, particularly this judge who's the custodian of these records, because he never did give them up. He still has the records that originally were subpoenaed, can actually produce these records and can actually be called to testify in a court.
And say that these records have not been altered, and then the state can produce an expert that says,
in other words, that he has not altered. These are the exact records that were given to me when the subpoena was issued and these documents were delivered. Well, and that is a good basis then to go forward. The question is, will the Johnson County District Attorney's Office then now move forward with the prosecution? The ball's back, I guess, in their court.
And they should.
And if these allegations are proven true, what are some of the consequences criminally that could happen if some of these violations are actually
Well, they are substantial. It could involve a substantial fine, as well as, and more significantly, under current Title X laws, and that is those are the laws that control the granting process of certain funds by the federal government, that if Planned Parenthood is found to violate state laws, they could lose their federal funding, which amounts to about $350 million a year.
So in other words, if Planned Parenthood in Kansas is found guilty here, then it could affect them in other places outside of Kansas?
Yes.
It would affect them nationally. You know, when we're looking at this new group of people that are in Congress, we need to make sure, I believe, that Planned Parenthood funding is reviewed. There's no reason, in my view, why we as Americans should have our tax dollars paid towards the funding of abortion.
Well, yes, and that is a very legitimate concern and effort. And in addition to that, if you review how Planned Parenthood operates nationally, you will see substantial recollection efforts by attorneys general around the nation and Medicaid, Medicare fraud offices demonstrating that they overbill, that they don't follow the proper procedures as it relates to billing and so forth. So there are all kinds of questions. Unfortunately, those questions have been off the table because of the political cloud of Planned Parenthood. And it's time that we address this like we would address any other American business or any other recipient of funds and thoroughly investigate their utilization of taxpayer dollars. Now,
attorneys generals in other states could do the same kind of investigation that was initiated in Kansas, where they look at some of these things, determine, number one, whether or not these abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood or others, are complying with state law, whether or not they're committing abortions on minors, whether or not they're reporting the fact that minors, by virtue of being a minor, likely there's probably a crime in many of those situations because an adult has probably had sexual activity with that minor. Well, Phil, I know that there's a lot going on in this case. We're going to continue to follow it. Thank you for your involvement in Kansas. And also, of course, Phil Kline teaches right now at Liberty University School of Law. And if you have an interest in law, come to Liberty University School of Law. You know somebody who does. You can give us a call or go to our website. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org, for more information. We have information that is there for life, liberty, and family. You can sign up for the Liberty Alert. You can sign up on the social networking, blogging, and events component right there on the icon on the left. Click on it and become part of the mobilization network and join with other friends and get other friends to join as well so that we can advance our core values of life, liberty, and family. Visit us today at Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org, or call us at 1-800-671-1776.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.